I guess we should probably give the people some context, because we
Okay.
actually obviously like know each other a little bit.
Right, right.
So what happened is that we both bought Sander Stage's IPGA masterclass, right?
That's right.
And I've mentioned it a little bit on the channel, but basically people just are trying to learn how to partner with creators or professionals to help them build some sort of online course with their expertise. And I came to the conclusion that that's probably not my wheelhouse. Like I feel like my skills are more in line with content and YouTube or
Hmm.
whatever, not so much client stuff. But I still wanted to keep up with you because we became like accountability partners, right? Check in
Right, exactly.
daily about like what'd you get done today. Make sure that
Hmm.
you're staying on the grind, basically. Um,
Yeah.
so that's the context for the people watching. But you had told me that you, prior to starting this IPGA class, you had different agency experience, and you were making like what,
Hmm.
15 grand a month or something from your old agency.
Right, yeah. We peaked at around 15K a month. It was me and a business part of mine. And I'm sure you know of Iman
Yeah,
as well, right?
Iman Katsi.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. So we got into the agency space because of Iman. So obviously we started with an SMMA, social media marketing agency. And then at some point we pivoted to making short form content as well. So it was like a little bit of paid advertising and then a little bit of short form content. And a few things came up. So one thing is we started to overcomplicate things, I guess, with how accessible information is. You kind of get like so many different ideas from so many different sources. So you go on YouTube and then you look up like how to go about doing sales, for example, and then you'll see like a dozen different ideas from like a dozen different like experts, and then we'll obviously watch all of them and then try to implement all of it. So we eventually came to like just overcomplicate things by trying to add too much into the system. So you can imagine how if we added like a dozen things into sales, then how many other things we would add into like branding, into like outreach, into this and that. So at some point, we kind of derailed from what we were originally doing. And that kind of led to a collapse of the agency that my partner and I were working on. So, long story short, I'm no longer working with him. I flew back to my hometown and now I'm looking to start another agency from scratch. This time, whatever the expert is teaching, in this case, it would be Sanders Stage and his IPGA. I plan on just taking whatever I learned and then running with it, not overcomplicating things, just whatever I'm being told by the person who has already done it and succeeded, and then just running with that because I know now that simplicity really is key.
right. So you intend then to keep going with IPGA, and unlike me, you're actually going to probably try to find clients, and this will be your full time job.
Most likely. Maybe not. Okay, so I told you this through DMs like literally a day or two ago, but there is a chance that I won't go with the IPGA model specifically. My mindset going into this is whatever I decide to do, I will go with just that and then not deviate like a step or two into the process. So as for whether or not I'm going with this specific model, I'm still flirting with a couple of models right now. So, like I said, I am actually looking into a few other models that involve school
Right.
instead of
Right.
whatever Sander is shilling right now. But once I've once I've done my research and I've decided on one specific model, that is the one that I'm taking with me to the very end.
Right. That's interesting that you mentioned school because I just spoke with a bunch of people in my Discord yesterday, I guess it was, and I was explaining how, like, a lot of the calls that I've scheduled, just like this, because I removed that $30 fee and anyone can sign up. A lot of people don't show up to the meeting because
Okay.
there's like less of a penalty, I guess, by not showing up.
Hmm.
So I was toying with the idea with people in my Discord of like, what if down the road I took it more of the paid community route with like a school.com
Hmm.
kind of a thing where I mean it's kind of, honestly I take a lot of inspiration from Hamza's Adonis school. He's got like the
Right.
most successful creator school probably on the platform. And it would be
Hmm.
like, I don't know, $50 a month or some price. And we do like 2 or 3 group calls a week. And you bring people on the mic and we talk about stuff kind of live. Someone toyed with the idea of live streaming the calls, um, because I felt with like the IPGA stuff, right? I just knew that that deep down was not me.
Hmm.
You know, I wasn't like naturally good at the technical side of running the back end of a website and sales funnels and all this stuff, right? But I was like,
Hmm.
I might be better suited to run a community of sorts because I kind of had that experience in the past with a Minecraft server I ran, and that was like
Right.
a good little like dipping my toes in there. Because
Yeah, yeah.
that was by far the most profitable thing I've ever done with the channel. So I was like, damn, I gotta get
Oh,
back to that.
really?
Yeah,
And you started off as a Minecraft channel too, right?
yeah, I did, and that peaked at like $2,500 a month through Patreon, which
Okay.
at the time that was like, damn, this is pretty
Yeah.
good. So
Right.
I want to get back to that. But so what have you been considering with school? Well, actually, let's explain to the people what school is. Basically, a week or two ago, I think Alex Ramosi, one of the biggest financial guru creators, became, I think, the co-founder or co-owner of school.com. Massive
Hmm.
investment. And School is
Yeah.
basically a website where people can start up, most usually a paid community, and you can gamify it. You can have people make posts, and you can do group calls, and basically just a place to put like your tribe of people. And so I
Hmm.
was looking at that like, damn, if Alex is putting that much money into this website, it's probably going to be like the place to build a community going forward. But
Yeah.
tell me what your thoughts are on what you've been thinking about doing with School.
Yeah. So, in terms of what school does, it's actually not like super unique. The main drawing point for me is the people behind school.
Right.
So, the founder of school, Sam Ovens, he's not as like popular as a lot of other like business gurus, but a lot of the people that I currently look up to, they originally started their journey looking up to Sam Ovens. So, guys like Hamza even, like, recently,
He
did a
did.
video with
Yeah, I
Sam
saw that. I
Ovens.
watched it.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I don't know if you know Alex Becker as well, but he was, like, one of the very first, like, business guys that I watched as well, and then he was one who looked up to Sam Ovens as well. So, like, I've always known, like, just hearing his name, like, on the grapevine, like, how big of a deal he is. So, I even though I don't follow him, like, a lot, I knew how how important he is in the business space. So having him found school was already like the biggest green flag ever. And then, like you said, about a week or so ago, Hormozy made the biggest acquisition of his career, investing into school as well. So these are like two titans in
Right.
the field, like behind this project. So despite the whole paid community like platform not being exactly unique to school, I think that it already is the front runner and it will continue to just like widen the gap in
Yeah.
terms of how well they're gonna do.
Right. But like what would you be doing? Like would you be using School as a platform for your business?
No, well, maybe eventually, but you know how with the IPGA model, we're essentially teaching experts how to take their expertise and then turning it into an online course, right? So the other model that I'm flirting with is instead of the online course being the bread and butter, to help experts and people who already have somewhat of a following create and monetize their audience. So to help them build a structure on school that helps them to scale and actually make as much money as they can from their audience and from their expertise.
What do you think about that idea of me opening up a community? Do you think that would be a feasible thing for the channel?
Yeah, I actually think that that's probably the best way you could go about doing the whole like making money online thing for you specifically. Because, and we touched upon this in our DMs a little bit, but I'm a really big believer that doing what you enjoy doing is so key to any form of success, because no matter what you do in life, you need to put in time and effort, like a tremendous amount. And it's just easier to put in time and effort if you actually enjoy doing the thing, right? So with a business model that you don't enjoy, you're going to struggle a lot to put in the required amount of time and effort to actually get to the point where you find success. Because you're gonna be eating dog shit for, like, months, if not years, until you finally hit that tipping point where you're actually, like, making enough income where you're actually able to, like, sustain yourself doing that thing. So, either you could struggle and, like, hate your life doing it, or you could find something that you actually, like, enjoy. So, it sounds like for you, like, the whole, like, businessy side of things isn't really what you enjoy doing, it's the, like, creating content, it's the engaging with your community, like, sharing ideas, like, talking with your tribe. It sounds like that's what you're more into.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, there's like a million different ways to make money. There's not just like one or two ways to make money, right? So, even if what you're doing isn't like the fastest, quickest, like best way, most efficient way to make money, if you do it long enough and you do it well enough, you're going to make money anyway. So, may as well pick something you enjoy.
Right. Yeah, well, to connect that to Sam Ovens again, in the video that he did with Hamza, I'm pretty sure he said something along the lines of he just loves building stuff. Like
Mhm.
he's found a way to love doing the work because he said like people just well, like why can't I do the work, you know? And it's
Mhm.
and I watched a little bit of this really long video that he posted, just Sam, and he was saying that it all comes back to love. And if you don't love what you're
Mhm.
doing, then I mean, it's not that it can't work, but you're just stacking it so not in your favor by pursuing something
Yeah.
that you don't like, you know? And
Mhm.
and that's obviously like the number one question is then like, well, then how do I find what I love? And what's interesting is I'm actually currently writing a pretty big outline for more of like a guide style video. Like I kind of typically do like 5 to maybe 10 minute videos that are just like my thoughts, and I'm writing this outline of probably like an hour's worth of video of how to find your purpose. And I
Okay.
and I've been looking at like obviously a lot of other creators to see like other perspectives on how they found their purpose. But I think it honestly will always come back to with purpose specifically like not necessarily like finding one thing that you love to do, but more like always be searching for like that next thing because I find a tremendous amount of guidance and loving my work when you know I've said it many times more like the journey versus the end
Mm.
goal, you know, like
Yeah.
I this is kind of a dumb little example, but I was playing Minecraft the other day and I don't play
Yeah.
games that often anymore, but I've been on the server with my friends and I have been like such a little gamer goblin for like a few days.
Yeah.
Like I've literally just been like man, I got to get this tool so that I can enchant this and then I can like build my house and then you know there's like steps and I'm like how the hell did
Yeah.
like 4 hours just go by where I've been
Right.
like
I totally get
in
that.
this like straight up, you know, flow state where I'm just like so engaged in what I'm doing and it's like because I'm loving the process. I'm not focused so much on like, oh, once I do all this stuff, then I can enjoy like 10,000 iron bars an hour from my farm that I built. It's more about like
Yeah.
being in that moment. That's the purpose, I think. It's finding your purpose is searching for your purpose, you know. What do you think about that?
Okay. I I think that okay, so your channel is literally called Flow State, so I'm
Yeah.
sure you know quite a lot about Flow State, right? Have you read the book Flow State by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi?
No. What is it?
No. Do you know who he is?
I've never heard of him.
Really? Okay, so he's got this crazy name, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's the godfather of the concept of flow.
Okay.
So, he's like the very first person who originally like came up with this idea, this concept, and he says that in one of the biggest studies done at the time, they basically had like little pagers and they gave it to all of these participants, and it would like just beep them at random times during the day, and it would ask them, "What are you currently doing? And how happy are you?" And they kind of found that there was like an extremely strong correlation between a person's happiness and when they were so deeply engaged in the thing that they were currently doing. And obviously that's flow state, right? So um he basically concluded that we are most happy not when we're like lounging around like all leisurely like enjoying this and that. It's when we're like really engaged in what we're doing. And some examples he gave were like a person surfing, because that like really it forces you to be in the moment, you know? You're like not thinking about anything else. You're just in the present moment doing that thing. And then another is like a person like a person like herding their sheep like on their farm or whatever, like things that like really force you in the moment. And that leads me to believe that it is really all about the journey, because all there is the current moment, right? Like when we think about the future, we think about it as this like external thing. But then when the future comes, it comes as the present, right? Like we only experience the present ever. So I think it's important to how do I say this? I think it's important to appreciate and like just live in the moment and understand that the journey is all that there is.
Hmm. It's funny that you say that because I was just watching a video from Hamza where he said something
Mhm,
like, it's actually quite fulfilling and it might bring you happiness to just do work. And it's not necessarily doing work that you think will make you happy or like, oh, this is my dream job. You know, it might be like a little bit mundane, but it's like by occupying your mind, you're forcing yourself to put all of your attention to this moment. And and I
mhm,
I think it's absolutely true. And I mean, they probably validated this through the study that when you're kind of bored or when you have too much free time, that's kind of a bad thing because your mind is
mhm,
left to wander and like, oh, I'm worrying about this one thing over here. I'm like, did I fumble that handshake earlier today? Because your
mhm,
mind is it has too much space, you know, and narrowing down your scope will help you a lot. It's why honestly I decided that I didn't want to do IPGA because I felt like I was spreading my attention too thin. I was like, oh, I'll dip my toes in over here and over here. Whereas like
mhm.
the most fulfillment for me is probably just like laser focused on this one thing, which is YouTube. That's where I'll be
Yeah.
happiest.
Yeah, I think it's so key to actually be self-aware enough to realize this. There's one thing that Gary Vee said that really resonated with me, and it applies to almost everyone. However, I have to preface by saying that a lazy person could also use this as an excuse to not do work. But what he said was, if you don't like doing something, maybe it's because you weren't meant to do it.
Right.
It's that simple, right? Like, obviously, this can be taken by, like, a lazy sack of shit and then be like, "Oh, well, like, I'm not meant to do it," and then but they're actually just, like, too lazy to do the work, so it's like, there's
Yeah.
a fine line. But if you've actually, like, been trying to put in the effort, you've been doing it, and then you still don't like it, there is a chance that, like, you just weren't meant to do that.
Hmm.
And if it's gonna be like a career, then we're gonna be doing it until we're old. Like, and we're gonna be spending like the most valuable years of our lives too doing it. So it really feels like a waste to be doing something that just doesn't make us happy.
Let me ask you that then, because as someone that does not see themselves doing like client work, agency work,
Mhm.
what is it about the business model that you enjoy so much and why you've chosen it as a path?
Okay, so one thing that I like is so I'm gonna narrow it down to like an umbrella term of like the agency model, because an agency is really just like you provide like a service for your clients. So the agency model, what I like about it is the fact that you can run it with a pretty lean team. You can run it with you as just one person, but then even when you start to like scale out and hire, you can still run it with like a pretty lean team. You don't need like dozens of employees to do what you need to do. And there's something really fun, in my opinion, about building a business. It's just like building this thing that like generates money. Like it feels kind of fun. It almost feels like a game. And the agency model allows me to do that on like starting from a relatively small scale. So I don't need like hundreds of thousands of dollars in capital to like kickstart something. It's not like a brick and mortar store where like I need to invest in like this property, I need to invest in like inventory and invest in this and that and that. An agency model, like I can start with literally just me, and I'm still building this fun project that will generate me money.
Right. Now, let me play devil's advocate. How
Mhm.
would all of those factors be so different from just starting a YouTube channel?
It wouldn't.
Yeah, it wouldn't,
It
would it?
wouldn't. No, you're right.
It wouldn't. And it's pretty
Hmm.
awesome. It's pretty awesome, I'll tell you that.
Right.
Because
But okay,
because I want to
then
ask you that because you mentioned that you make
okay.
content, right? So I just want to
Yeah.
like check in if like deep down would you want to also do YouTube or do you think
I do,
yeah,
absolutely. I there's two things in regard, well, not just YouTube, but I want to make content for two reasons. One is because I want to build a community, a tribe where I can share my ideas and know that there are like-minded people who will have a discussion with me. Because I believe it's really important to curate your own network in a way where you know for a fact that the people that you surround yourself with are people who pull you up, who like push you to grow,
right,
rather than like someone with like hypothetically, let's say you're friends with your high school friends and you became friends because of just like proximity, right? But maybe not a lot of them share your same values. Maybe a lot of them like they're like smoking weed and they're like out partying and like clubbing and like whatever, and they're not like really values that you align with. Just due to hanging out with them, some of their behaviors are going to rub off onto you. So I think it's really important to be really intentional about the kinds of people you surround yourself with. And I feel like no better way to there's no better way to know exactly how you're going to be influenced by other than like literally building it up the way you want it to be. And I think building your own community is that way. So obviously you gotta create content in order to do that. The second reason is because I think that I actually have valuable insights and valuable ideas to share as well. And I think that if it took me however many years to learn what I've learned, then I could probably help a person who's like 5 years younger than me kind of like skip some of those steps and just like learn from my mistakes and get a little bit more ahead in their lives,
right.
versus figuring it out on their own.
Now, do you worry at all that it's quite a split of your attention to do both an agency and YouTube?
Yes, that is a worry of mine. I think that's partially why I haven't really like put in as much effort as I know I should when it comes to YouTube, is because a part of me is like, well, you can get your business to this level first and then I'll like start putting more effort into YouTube. There's like a part of me that says that, although I feel like that might not be the best mindset to go into it, because if I if I wait until like a certain milestone is met before doing something, like something new will always come up.
Yeah.
It's always going to be like, okay, once I get this, and then once I get there, it's like, well, there's going to be another thing on my plate now that like I feel is really urgent, and then I'll just continue to push it off. So I feel like I can't go into it with that mindset. I feel like I need to like just start.
Yeah. No, it's such a dangerous way to go your life because it's so easy to put stuff off. Like I've probably done that
Mhm.
to a large extent with fitness, where I'm like, well, I'll eventually track my calories. Like,
Mhm.
maybe down the road I'll start doing that, and I've actually started to get better at that. But it's so easy to go for years and just like go through the motions, basically. But
Hmm.
Would you say that ultimately money or the community fulfillment aspect is more important to you?
I feel like money comes first because it unlocks freedom.
Right.
Because money unlocks time freedom and it unlocks like the ability to do things. So one example would be like, okay, well, if I have money, I can I can go where I want to go. I can like buy what I need to buy, whether it's like okay, like one example is uh I've been eyeing like this water filter that's like a few $100s and it's it's apparently like really good because tap water just like has a bunch of like bullshit in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, I it's something that I know would benefit me, but then the thing that's limiting me is money. And then this is just one example, but money unlocks the ability to do other things, and it's like a more immediate, um, it's like a more immediate benefit that I can like immediately apply to like several different areas of my life. Whereas I feel like the community is it's like a slower burn, if that makes any sense.
It might be a bit of an unfair question because it's not as though they're mutually exclusive. You know, you can be
Right,
very,
of
very
course.
happy doing what you're doing and also make a fuckload of money doing it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know what you mean though. Specific, I mean, about the water, I have a, is it reverse osmosis? That's the one I have. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, that's the kind of thing where if it's, I mean, a few $100s can be a lot for some people, but I think when it comes to your health, it's not something you should really skimp on. Like I have always,
Mhm.
shopped for the best food because it's going in my body.
Mhm.
It's the thing that
Right.
like fuels my entire life. So why would I not spend
Mhm.
25% more to make sure that I'm working in top condition, you know?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
but I can 100% relate to the money thing because I've come to the conclusion, especially in writing this purpose document, one of the sections I go into is whether you're an individualist or a collectivist. And
Okay.
I talk about, or I'm going to talk about whether your motivations and reasons for making money or being successful are purely out of your own desires or because you want to lift people up around you. Because
Okay.
for a while I was thinking that, man, wouldn't it be awesome to have like a jet black Aston Martin and have like
Mm,
the
mhm.
nicest like clothing and all this
Yeah.
all this bullshit essentially. And
Right.
and then I was writing in this document, what would I spend my money on that would truly make me happy? And I was thinking
Mhm.
like one of my friends, he has like a really crappy $200 laptop. I want to get him like a really nice
Mhm.
gaming laptop. Or
Okay.
like my mom, my mom does very well for herself, but she puts on the stress because she is a mom that she wants to help pay for my sister and my wedding. And I'm like, mom,
Mhm.
like you got to retire. Like let me take
Yeah.
care of it, you know? Like I want to spend money
Right.
on that or just making sure people around me are taken care of because I feel like that's
Mhm.
what actually will make at least me happy. And I think most people would probably feel pretty good like retiring their dad or something, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So in that regard, I feel like it's not a bad thing at all to want money as a creator or as an online business builder. You know, that's why
Mhm.
we're here. You know, I think most
Mhm.
creators would be lying if they said they're making content out of the goodness of their heart because they just love it. Like we also want to make a big living here. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and if
Absolutely.
and if that's what you're after for money, I mean, I'm not saying that you are this way, but like I don't want anyone to ever think that there's like shame behind chasing that because it's not
Mhm.
only necessary, but it's like awesome to lift your family and
Yeah.
friends up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I okay. I don't know if this is naive, but I kind of want to separate money from my YouTube and like my content creation. Like I kind of don't want to make money off of my YouTube because I know that my business is like my main thing.
Right.
And if I'm able to provide value for free, I would rather provide it for free rather than like charge like a little bit for it because I don't need to depend on my YouTube to make a living.
Right.
So Um, so another thing I guess to note is like for a lot of people who don't run businesses and like YouTube's their main thing, I can see that they might have this like internal struggle of like, uh, am I a bad person for like making money off of this? But that's
I
kind
definitely
of
have that for sure.
right,
Yeah.
right. So, yeah, that luckily for me, that's not an internal struggle I have because I intend to like make money off my business, like only.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's such a stigma as a creator to be like, ooh, you're monetizing your audience. Like
Mhm,
that's kind of gross. I remember when I launched my Patreon Minecraft server, and some people, probably like just like young people that have absolutely no money to spend, and they're like, $15 a month? That's outrageous. And
mhm,
I'm like, I mean, the
mhm,
server costs money and rent and food. Like I think I would like to be a part of the type of creator that kind of destroys these self-limiting beliefs about money, and like it's okay
mhm,
to do things not solely in the pursuit of money but as a byproduct. Like it's just going to happen no matter what, so it's not like
mhm.
you're not a bad person for making money. I don't even know where that honestly came from, like why people grew to become so attached to like you need to make things free all the time, because a thing that I've realized in making the the calls free for the podcast is that when something is free, people don't value it as much. So of course
That's true.
they're not gonna show up all the time, or I'm gonna get a lot more people that don't even show up to the meeting, because it's like, well, if it's free, then the value must be lower. And
Mhm.
if I went around and said, okay, now the calls are $100, people would be like, I mean, a lot of people would be like, that's too much. But also some people would be like, whoa, if it's $100, then it must be valuable.
Right.
There must be something
Yeah.
to this then.
I do think that's true. It's okay, have you read Hormozy's $100 million offers?
No, I've heard it's really good though.
Okay, it is really good, but he touches on the idea that it is important to charge more because it increases the perceived value, but then two, because you're charging more, you have more money to actually spend back into the business to make the business better. So like
Right,
in
right.
the end, the amount of value that you can provide increases as well. So it's like a win-win. So yeah, I actually absolutely agree. In regards to like charging for value, I think there's I think there's two ways to look at it. One is what we were just talking about how if you charge more, then you're kind of able to like make your product better because you have like more money to like fund like improving it. But then there's also another thing where it's like I think it's different depending on how you make your money. Because if you make your money through that thing, so let's say it's the online community, then you got to make a living, right? Like you have to charge someone in order to make a living. So if you're gonna charge them for that community anyway, I think it does make sense to like charge like more,
Right.
basically. Um, However, if that thing, as in like the community or like your content, isn't your sole source of income, then from my perspective, I see it as like um what's the word I'm looking for? Like an optional thing. Because if you look at Hormozy, for example, he basically teaches everything he knows for free. Like everything's just on YouTube. And then he
Right.
sells his book for $1 just because he needs to. Like just because you can't put like free things on Amazon or whatever. So literally everything he knows is out on the internet for free, essentially. But then I don't think we value it any less either.
Well,
Like
because I
Hormozy's a
mean,
god, right?
when he, I think he sold acquisition for like 100 million or something like that, or like he has a lot of money, so he has the
Mhm.
luxury of saying like, I don't need extra money. And same thing with Hamza.
Right.
Like, I think I think I've done the math on this, and if he
Yeah.
has 1,200 members in his paid community, paying $129 a month, then he pulls in about 150,000 a month just from that.
Right.
And then I looked
Right.
at his social blade, his YouTube stats, and he got like a few million views in the past month. And that's probably like, I don't know, optimistically 10 grand a month at most, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like in comparison, he's like, I don't care about this extra money, like
Right.
this is the main thing. So I think where it gets messy is when creators, I mean, I guess you could just say greedy, where they don't know when to stop and they just want to charge for
Mm-hmm.
everything. Or
Mm-hmm.
like I just feel like when you're making so much money, it's inherently going to piss some people off because I think that there's a bit of desiring their lifestyle, desiring that position. So
Yeah.
of course they're going to get mad. But when people also know that you're doing extremely well for yourself and you're charging a ton of money, it's like, okay, dude, what are we doing here? Like, do you
Mm-hmm.
seriously need
Mm-hmm.
all this extra money? And I mean, I'm not going to say that that's like bad per se, but I just know that if I ever did something on YouTube where I'm charging money for a community or a course or something, if I know that I'm already making tons and tons of money from this and it would just be like unnecessary to keep charging for this, it's like I just feel like there would be a moral conflict there. And
Right.
and and also just like knowing your own worth, because some people like Alex Hormozy or like these massive gurus, they have so much knowledge that they probably could charge for everything and they would be in the right to do so because they know they have their value. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I have a bit of imposter syndrome where I'm like who am I to be charging $500 for a course, like
Right. Right.
maybe in 10 years when I'm older I'll have more experience, but right now it's like check yourself a bit, dude. Like humble yourself at times.
Mm-hmm. Look at people that you know are worthy of respect. So in this case, it would be like Hormozy, Hamza, like Sam Evans, and then look at what they're doing rather than like what's being done as a whole.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
always want to be paying attention to people that are in a more desirable position than you are. And
Yeah.
and I mean,
Absolutely.
like I've talked to my mom about this in relation to my sister because she has a childhood friend who is not the spitting image of a good like person at relationships. And
Mm.
she one time was like, "You're settling for your boyfriend," to my sister. And I remember telling her like, "This is like asking a hobo for financial advice, Like
So true.
it's like
So
it's
true.
like don't pay attention to people that are not doing better than you. I mean, like if someone is way down here and they're like, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's like, who are you to tell me what to do? You're not in a position of authority, But someone like Sam Evans is like, yeah, I'm gonna perk my ears up when he speaks because he knows what he's talking about.
Dude, I'm so glad you brought that up because that is something that I strongly believe as well. And I always use the same analogy too about like the you wouldn't listen to a hobo for financial advice. The other one I always use is like you wouldn't listen to an obese person for fitness advice either.
Right,
It's like
right,
not all advice is equal.
right.
You need to look at like who's giving the advice and then asking yourself, is that person where I want to be at? And for like 90% of advice that we receive, the answer is probably no. The answer is probably like, okay, like who do we get advice from? Probably like friends, like coworkers, like
Yeah.
family. Realistically, if we come from something of like a normal like household with like normal friends or whatever, we don't want to be normal. Like, let's be real. Like you and I, like the types of people that we are, we don't want to be normal.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not desirable to us. So most of the advice that people give out of the kindness of their hearts, like they're not trying to be malicious or like trying to drag us down or anything, but it's like we should not be listening to them
Mm-hmm.
because we don't want to be where they're at currently.
Right. Yeah, I remember my mom, bless her heart. She when I first started my channel, she was like, well, but having a 9 to 5 is so like comfortable and you get to have a 401k and you get to have paid vacation. I'm like, yeah, those are nice perks, but like, I'm not going to give up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a
Yeah,
worth,
yeah.
it's not the opportunity cost is not there for me. And like, I
Hmm.
don't want to forego that. And I understand where she's coming from because she's had a career her entire life. And, it is comfortable for a lot of people and it is stable. But for us and people that want to build a business, it's like that's not going to cut it, And
Hmm.
you have to pay attention to who is giving you advice. And I'm glad that you said though that they are most likely doing it because they just want to see you succeed. It's just recognizing
Hmm.
like is their advice going to actually contribute to your vision, because it might not,
Hmm.
and that's not their fault. It's just that you know what I'm saying. It matters who the
Yeah,
person
like
is.
yeah, yeah. It's just that like what we want, like our desires and our values don't align. That's all. Like there's no like ill intent behind it. Like they're just doing it because they want what's best for you.
Right.
But we don't want the same things. That's all.
Right. Right.
So you told me that you've been working on this like long form video that's like really, really important to you, and it's about like purpose, right?
Right.
Ikigai is a Japanese concept that basically translates to reason for being, I believe. Reason for being. It's like the reason why someone even exists. And to just quickly summarize it, there's like a Venn diagram of like four different circles, and then one is let me try to remember. One is what you love, one is what you're good at, one is what you can make money with, and one is what the world needs. And the idea is you want to try to find the intersection of these four circles. And then if you're able to find that, then that is your reason for being. So if you have the time, I suggest you look that up and just like read up about it a little bit because I think it'll really benefit that video that you're
Hell
making.
yeah. Yeah. I'll add a section to mention that. That's really good. Like when you find the intersection point, it's like that's the your golden goose. Like you have
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
basically won at life if you can solve that equation. Just that we're all trying to
exactly.
figure out what's in that middle point, right? Well, cool, man. I mean, we should totally do this again once you've scaled up IPG. I know you said you're going on that trip in a few days, but
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah,
once it's going, we should talk again.
absolutely. I'm down. I'm so down.